Chair, and on behalf of the President and the Board of Trustees of the Cebu IT BPM Organization, or CIB.O, welcome to the final day of the 2022 Transformation Summit and Expo. CIB.O is an industry association of key players and stakeholders formed to sustain growth of the IT BPM sector. In the next 3 hours, we will cover the future of software industry and other related developments, Accenture's technology vision, what's the Aboitiz perspective on AI and data science, and just like the first 2 days of the summit, please feel free to type in your questions in the chat box in Zoom. Please also visit our online exhibits at the summit website. Hang on until the end of today's session for you to qualify for exciting prizes that you will receive via GCash. And for the winners from yesterday's session, please check the details at CIB.O Facebook page. And so, is everyone ready? Well, we are ready. To officially begin the final day of the 2022 CIB.O Transformation Summit, we have here the Mayor of Cebu City, Honorable Michael Lopez Rama, for his opening remarks.
The quest for becoming Singapore-like begins as Mayor Mike Rama sets off a fresh start as the Chief Executive Officer of Cebu City. In the next 3 years, he is determined to realize the long-delayed BRT and the conduct of studies and initial stages in the rollout of a monorail along coastlines, an LRT through the hinterlands, traversing north to south, a cable car system going up the highlands, subways like in New York, and a viaduct and widened arterial roads with flared intersections. At the height of the pandemic, as Vice Mayor to the late Mayor Edgardo Colina Labella, Mike Rama pursued, with the private sector, the establishment of the NOAA Quarantine Center, that he further transformed to a mega vaccination center while serving as acting mayor. As vice mayor, Rama steered the Pabakunata vaccination campaign that rolled out 21 vaccination centers, various pop-up sites, a drive-through, and house visits Tok Tok Bakuna. As acting mayor, Rama steered the city through the Delta and Omicron variants and got on board more sectors in government and the private sector through a consultative process now known as the Convergence. The Convergence helped shape the executive orders and directives that Mike Rama, both as acting and ascended mayor, issued as guides through the challenges of the pandemic and Super Typhoon Odette. The most significant is his declaration of freedom from the restrictions of the pandemic during the 85th Charter Day last February 24, to spark back the economy while reminding the public to be mindful with minimum public health standards. Gawas no nata, amping lang, came the battle cry. Since Rama's declaration, various businesses opened back. Employees in limbo have returned to work. Industries, hotels, and restaurants have since been rehiring. Public transport carried passengers in full capacity. And children slowly went back to school to study face to face. As Mike Rama ascended as mayor, with Vice Mayor Dondon Hontiveros, he embarked on 21 focus items that he prioritized over the last 6 months. Among those the mayor had accomplished, he had released the long overdue financial assistance to 31 barangays, achieved herd immunity through massive vaccination, liberated the economy, anchored on vaccination, brought back City Hall at your doorsteps, went after grafters and fixers, streamlined business permit processing, attended continuously to the flooding problem, convened a solid waste summit, pushed forward to finish the Cebu City Medical Center, resumed street lighting, cured the JVA on the carbon market redevelopment. As Mayor Mike Rama opens a new chapter for Cebu City, he is determined to conclude during the first 100 days 5 items in the 21-gun salute. Pay fully the SRP loan. Materialize the 93-1 deal. Realize the BRT project. Convene a traffic summit. Asphalt city streets. With the support of the City Council, now led by Vice Mayor Raymond Garcia, Mayor Rama aims to accomplish within the first 100 days the first stages of 4 long-term projects included in the 21-gun salute. That will lead to install public Wi-Fi portals, rollout of Let There Be Light program to more households, engage developers obliged to undertake socialized housing, to build 2 MRBs that will prioritize those affected in the clearing of the 3-meter easement of city rivers. Plan for a condominium for City Hall and other government employees. Equip and modernize the police force and build new police stations with the private sector. Among those Mayor Mike Rama wants to fulfill within the first 100 days of his administration would be to bring about the atmosphere to bring life to various infrastructures. This includes placement of bougainvillea on the sides of every flyover and gardening underneath these flyovers. Landscape side streets, starting with the Manila-Talamban corridor. Redesign major sidewalks to become more accessible. Begin to incorporate flared intersections at major crossings. Start to transform a portion of Magallanes Street from MJ Cuenco to Plaza Subu into a promenade and boardwalk, an artistic leisurely public walkway. Revisit the study for a Guadalupe-Lahug bypass road. Equip and modernize the creation of a Cebu City College. Meanwhile, at SRP, the mayor wants to add up the original alignment of CC-Lex over Guadalupe River through V. Rama Avenue. Connect SRP to the mainland through 7 bridges. Commence efforts to build MRBs for socialized housing along the seafronts of Inayawan, Kinasangan, Cogon Pardo, Mambaling, Dulho Fatima, Sawang Calero, Pasil and Ermita. Realize the construction of a new Cebu City Hall at SRP. Ensure the start of civil works by Expedition Construction Corporation in the development of Pond A and the former Inayawan landfill. Support and ensure the start of projects DPWH had planned for, especially the roundabout at the T-junction near SMC side to Mambaling. Mayor Rama ran with his team in Partido Barug with a platform anchored on the acronym Barug Cebu City, which has now evolved as the program of his administration. Based on the Barug Cebu City program, the executive team selected in a workshop what to accomplish in 100 days and for the rest of the 3-year term of the Rama Garcia administration. Some of those included push further the Pabakunata campaign through, among other strategies, Tok Tok Bakuna and special vaccination days for private schools and the remaining public schools. Complete the shell of the new CCMC building. Establish a molecular laboratory at CCMC. Aggressively clear obstructions by buildings and structures along waterways. Improve the setup for reblocking starting at Punta Princesa, and bid to host the Palarong Pambansa. The targets here are a tall order for Mayor Mike Rama to accomplish, but he is determined to realize them. Anchored on his proven track record, during his previous 2 terms as mayor, and during his stint as acting and ascended mayor, he needs the support of the 27 departments and all other offices at City Hall, the 80 barangays, the convergence of the private and public sector leaders, the interfaith group led by Archbishop Jose Palma, and everyone in Cebu City. Only in unity and solidarity will Cebu City, with the new leadership of Mayor Mike Rama, be able to carry on the quest to transform Cebu City to be Singapore like. True indeed. Together, we can make better things happen for Cebu City. In God we trust.
Good afternoon, mayong hapon, Mayor Mike.
Mayong hapon, DJ.
Salamat for being
Now,
here.
Go ahead.
No, salamat for being here for the past 3 days.
My pleasure, and you're welcome. Now, may I now begin on my message?
Yes, you can, Mayor.
First and foremost, let me bring back, or I remember quite well, the first day of this convergence. I have mentioned Francis Hisselbin, former Girl Scout CEO. When she said, culture does not change because we desire to change it. It changes when the organization is transformed. My greetings to all of you. Once again, bringing into this ultimate day, which is the 3rd day of the 2022 Transformation Summit Expo. I congratulate the organizers, especially CIB.O, which stands for Cebu Information Technology Business Management, Business Process Management. My salute, of course, to Asim Roy, His Excellency, and to these 2 gentlemen that has always been the personality from the commencement up to the ending. And I refer to the so-called convener or the chairman in bringing this, and that happened to be, of course, my good friend, JJ Moises. Likewise, when after Moses, of course, it should have been Joshua or whoever in the Bible, then it ended up with Badi Vilyasis. Precisely, Your Excellency Asim Roy, you did all the people involved, this wonderful, very intellectual, continuing process, where I myself has to be a part, because we cannot, as you have viewed, when the presentation through visual or the video presentation will guide all of us, that unity and solidarity is definitely a requirement. And the next level play cannot be into the so-called what we ought to imbibe without all of us being a part. Yes, JG was thanking me through text of my being present in 3 days. But the truth of the matter, I said, I have to because this sector is an indispensable, when I call, player going towards a Singapore-like Cebu City. We cannot be such a gargantuan, shall we say, trust if we don't level up, if we don't get to the motion of bringing everybody towards culture of excellence. That's the reason why, very timely, that we're talking about this paradigm shift, which is the word transformation, because a lot of challenges that is before us as we join hand together in terms of reaching our vision, mission, or goal towards a Singapore-like Cebu City. And of course, I added up even a Taiwan-like or whatnot. No? We need to have all these best practices that are available, and it is just within the tip of our finger. And that really has to be taken cognizance about. And because join me with our wish that would you having 3 years as a mayor, and there's a short term, there's a medium term, there's a long term, but definitely what is outrightly that we should be getting into so that we will continue to become a so-called destination for this line of discipline that I had an occasion to learn about, having started with 4, then ended up with 600, you could imagine, 600 if I'm not mistaken, and it's got one huge contribution to our economy, not only in Cebu, but the whole country. And therefore, it is really a challenge on this fresh term as a mayor. And you should be aware, I've been mayor twice, but cut off and had that whole thing had precisely affected. Or when I was the mayor, as a bragging right, we were number 8 in the whole world as far as this discipline of the so-called information technology level. Now, with all of you being around, I am pretty sure that we can really be a city that is globally smart, highly urbanized, and I call it clean, bright, safe, and secured for that matter, and most of all, culturally much enhanced, spiritually filled, and having to address all concern, especially this sector. So this afternoon, I am more of bringing to all of you that they really need to be guided about the matter of culture and the matter of transformation. And it goes without saying, as the song of Let There Be Peace on Earth, it always emanates from within. So all of us has to be a part of this. Our system, the people, and the so-called shifting to a paradigm or a paradigm shift for that matter, so that we will not end up on so much analysis that brings to paralysis. We should institute even fiscal reforms. And the city of Cebu is now working it out. You will definitely be properly appraised in the days to come on what are these fiscal reforms. Definitely get the right people on bridge as we all would wish to be in the human resource world, which I am until today, a human resource involved in labor management, government relationship, and I would like to make use of that and managing the city so that we will end up Singapore-like Cebu City from a point of view of a private public corporation-like. And let's all go forward. We cannot get into this journey if we don't adapt technological or adapt technologies and systems that ensure efficiency and ensure quality, especially to make public service alive. After all the basic transformation, then we proceed with transforming our organization. The city government, in my case, to transform into a Singapore-like Cebu City. We are all in this together. I need your help. I need this discipline's contribution towards bringing that unity and solidarity. We are all in this together. And in fact, I remember my mentor, and still my mentor, and not my political enemy, only political opponent. In the year 1992, we've always been espousing, and this should be given revert, that we should make Cebu City second to none. And I'm referring to former Mayor Tomas Usmeña. For Henry Ford, that I have always been guiding and making a clear pronouncement, the industrialist leader, very known, saying, coming together is the beginning. This whole convergence is not just the beginning. There have been a series of being together. Then keeping together is progress. We've been keeping together the relationship between government and this institution, but now we will go forward. And if we work together, which we will continue be working together. So Asim Roy, the president, then Buddy Villasis, so with DJ Moises and whoever would like to be on board, including the rest, we should have a regular interaction, tit-a-tit, for what we call continuing relationship and even addressing concern, especially that was being highlighted yesterday. And I wish my Councilor James Cuenco will be available to bring about a proposition that the institution and the government with the public transport system and our own public transport system put together so that we would be able to respond to a real concern that is an evening scarcity of availability of transportation. And that for together, we can make better things happen for Cebu City. In God we trust. Señor Santo Niño, have mercy on us. San Pedro Calungsod, pray for us. Thank you very, very much in this last and penultimate day on the Next Level Play Final Transformation Summit Expo, in line now with the discussion on software industry. Daghang kaayong salamat, maayong hapon kaninyong tanan. My salute to all of you.
Thank you, Mayor Mike. We are truly excited to see great things that's in store for Cebu City with your leadership. The software industry in the Philippines contributes 10% of the country's GDP among the tens of other sectors. In 2020, the software sales benefited from the increased demand from devices from Filipinos performing work and studying remotely. Local firms have also pushed for digital transformation, including spending for enterprise architecture projects. While the Philippines has a remarkable track record in software development, outsourcing, and offshoring, the question is, what's next? To speak about the future of software industry and related developments in Cebu, let's welcome to the virtual stage the President of the Software Association, Industry Association, Mr. Jonathan De Losuriaga.
Pleasant good afternoon to all our friends from Cebu. Mayor Mike, it's nice to see you again. DJ, thank you very much. Asim, I didn't know that you're now supposed to be addressed as Your Excellency. I've been part of this celebration of Cebu's excellence in the IT-BPM sector since its inception. I call this my panata. So allow me just to make a very brief introduction about myself. I could actually see a lot of very familiar names and friends in the participants list, but I could also see that there are probably a few of you who I'm probably going to be meeting for the first time in this presentation this afternoon. So allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Jonathan De Losuriaga. I'm also a very proud Provinciano, being based here in Region 6. I'm currently the president of the Philippine Software Industry, Board of Trustee of the IT Business Process Association of the Philippines, still doing consulting for the World Bank and the Department of Trade and Industry, among others. I'm a global ambassador until next year, and more importantly, I'm a startup founder. So I was tasked to talk about the future of the software industry and related developments in Cebu along the lines of IT in a very short period of time. So my friends from Cebu always ask me to do the impossible. So let me go through my couple of slides. What's the future of IT? For this, we basically borrowed a couple of data points from our friends from the Everest Group. So the global IT BPM sector is in a once in a lifetime mega cycle. In fact, the entire creation of the software industry in the Philippines also came about during challenging times. And for those of you who are already around, please do not raise your hand because you will just give out your age. But for those of you who were there already and working during the turn of the century, there was this phenomenon called the Y2K scare. During the turn of the century, people believed that planes will be falling out of the skies, financial systems will grind to a halt because the computers would not understand the transition from 99 to 00. Truth be known, nothing happened, but it strengthened the IT services industry in the Philippines. So the global IT BPM industry, as I mentioned, is again at the start of a mega growth cycle. The digital demand explosion is creating unmatched growth potential for global location strategies. You can see the slides. And what's always interesting with that way I present things is I'm going to tell you the stories behind the slides. The PSIA is composed of more than 130 of the who's who in the IT services industry. And all of us, not a single one exempted, is complaining about tremendous growth. This is something that we never anticipated coming out of a pandemic. And we're back to the drawing board when it comes to the same challenges. And one of these challenges, which Cebu actually is a powerhouse in, is the resource aspect. So the cornerstone of the entire IT BPM sector, make no mistake about it, is the strength and the excellence of the Filipino talent. However, because of the digital boom, severe talent shortages, and this is mostly driven by changes in employee preferences, aging populations are now enhancing the need for global service delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends from Cebu, let me tell you this. For the past 3 weeks, almost practically every day, I've been talking to new clients, new locators that would want to call the Philippines their home. And there are always two major choices in front of them: Metro Manila and Metro Cebu. Those are the first two choices that they make in terms of location. So again, I'm giving you a heads up. There's a lot of growth potential for the industry, especially in the IT sector. And I'm pretty certain that Cebu is not going to waste any time in trying to get a fair share of the opportunities that are coming the way of the Philippines. I'll be talking about 3 points mostly for this afternoon, which is comprising the future of work. So we're talking about the workforce, the workways, as well as the workplace. Everything is changing. We never anticipated this. When we created as industry associations, we always make a 6-year roadmap. And this year is actually the tail end of Roadmap 2022. Every 6 years, we create this roadmap so that it may serve as a guide for the industry and for our government partners to plot the trajectory of the growth of the industry, because we are certain, 120% certain, that the industry is really going to continue to grow. Now, that being said, we always want to make sure that we know what is behind the bend, so to speak. So these things, the workforce, the workplace, and the workplace, were something that we anticipated, but we never knew that it was going to come in such size and shape that we are not really familiar with. New IT BPM models are leveling the playing field as new ecosystems, regulations, policies need to be defined globally. And there is a renewed focus on people, planet, and profits, which brings diversity and sustainability in terms of doing global decisions. So the lay of the land in terms of the IT and software development space is more or less spread across a very, very huge scope that involves business process applications. Now, the name of the game is actually in terms of data and analytics. There's still IT management, a large chunk of it. For IT security, we could see humongous numbers that are being required for countries like the Philippines. And then there are others like cloud computing, communications and collaborations platforms, mobility, networking, and storage. All of the sub functions that you could see in front of your screen are growing by leaps and bounds. And I know if there's one location right now that is battle ready to face the requirements that is being required by industry, Cebu is probably going to be on top of the food chain. So let's talk about first the workforce. Now, we conducted several studies, and technically what is being required by industry now would be talent around cloud, data, artificial intelligence, user interface and user experience, enterprise software, and a myriad of software programming skills. Just to drill it down a little bit, you could see with the bullet points at the bottom of the slide, one requirement, regardless of how geeky or technically gifted you are, is still communications. And I think, Cebu is a cut above the rest when it comes to the rest of the country outside of Metro Manila in terms of addressing some of the requirements that is now being sought after in the industry. We partnered with Mercer to actually look at what's the global demand and how it translates in a Philippine setting. And apparently, JavaScript continues to be the hottest in-demand tech skill, while Agile methodology continues to rise as an in-demand skill. If you don't believe me, just look at all the ads that are floating around. So both on a company level and even on an individual level, and I'm basically talking about our digital workers that could pretty much go and earn themselves a livelihood by themselves. These are some of the things that are actually being sought after now. When we look at the lay of the land in software, and I hate to be geeky in front of everyone else, for the front end and the back end in terms of software development, JavaScript is actually at the top of the list when it comes to front end skills. And then we're looking at Java, still Java from a back end skills perspective. These are some of the more sought after skill sets, which I'm hoping that our friends from the academy here in Cebu are actually listening to, so that they could more or less readjust the output or the academic throughput that they produce, so that they could contribute to the constant growth of the industry, most especially software development and IT. One output of an internal PSIA survey that we did, which was answered by just 19 companies, but we sought the question, other than software developers, what talent are you actually looking for? And apparently there's a lot of need for testing engineers, cloud engineers and architects, as well as data engineers. And in terms of, again, the same survey, running the same survey, we came up with very good round numbers. So as we speak, this is just answered by 19 companies, mind you. So there's about almost close to 5,000 software developers that have ready job offers with just PSIA member companies. There's a multitude of project managers and software consultants, and there's about 3,000, more than 3,000 other IT personnel. Let's jump now into Workways. Forgive me for rushing, because I know that there are other speakers before me who will also put a lot of perspective into what's happening in the world of software and digital nowadays. So when it comes to Workways, next generation technology is the key battle. Clients are now looking for expertise from partners, rather than just the traditional, this is a box and you operate in a box. So they are now counting on countries like the Philippines to contribute to emerging in next generation technology that more or less revolves around data, AI, cloud, cybersecurity. And they're looking for qualified deployable talent, which is currently in very, very short supply the world over. Context is critical. Clients want more local talent with industry and organizational context to lend specific expertise. I know one of the major sponsors right now is Lexmark, and I can't get enough of that video coming from Lexmark as they go through the story of how they grew in Cebu. And that's precisely what companies are now looking for. People who would really mold well into their organizational culture. Certifications does not really equate to project readiness. Volume does not cut it for clients nowadays. They seek demonstrable expertise from partner resources. And when I say this, just to simplify this a bit, they're now looking for domain-specific skill sets, not just generic software development or quality assurance. I know that within the ecosystem of Cebu, you have a company named Lear, which I had the opportunity to actually interview way back 2010, and I was floored with the amount of activity that they're doing there in your province and in your city. That's exactly the new flavor right now of the industry. If you're talking about attracting financial services players, you need to have talent that is very much accustomed and acclimated with their specific domain. Last but not the least, if there's one lesson that came out of this pandemic, flexibility is at the forefront. Hybrid work will remain as the default for some, even for PSIA member companies. But now clients and new locators and new customers are looking for a mix of interaction and talent housing models. And in fact, for Spring Valley, I'm based here in Negros Occidental. At the height of the pandemic, we basically housed everyone in our facility. We were lucky enough to actually get a facility that had housing facilities next to it. And apparently that appeals to a lot of our clients. I'm hoping that that's the same experience that Cebu locators and players are actually seeing. Just a little bit about what's going on in the service in terms of the changes. So percent of respondents saying that service providers are actually asking for an increase. Now is the time actually for a lot of price adjustments and negotiations. 90% are actually asking IT applications development changes. And allow me just to Allow me just to shift this a bit. So, service provider requested rate increases post-pandemic per function, including contact centers, IT applications maintenance, IT infrastructure, finance and procurement, as well as HR payroll. And if you look at how it is from the lay of the land from a global standpoint, Philippines is not here in this particular mix, but all in all, the average is about a 5.6% rate increase post-pandemic. And honestly, the clients right now are not minding the dimes and cents too much as long as the quality of work is actually present. So little by little, the Philippines, whose entire IT BPM industry is anchored on two things: the strength of the Filipino talent, as well as cost arbitrage. We're slowly getting out of that as the rest of the world is also turning a page. So other changes observed in global workplace, material changes in deal behavior and certain commercial terms and conditions, which we expect to continue into 2022 as well as beyond. So cost of living adjustment is now being discussed. There are mid-deal adjustments and negotiations between clients and service providers. Data security and business continuity planning is now being demanded. So for those of you who are active in this particular space, just make sure that you're very much aware of what's going on within the lay of the land. This is actually part of Roadmap 2022, which is still pretty much applicable now. We are now seeing that low-skilled tasks, such as simple entry-level, process-driven tasks, are shrinking. And the mid-skilled tasks and the high-skilled tasks are actually increasing. So we're looking at very staggering numbers for high-skilled tasks, almost about 19% in terms of companies and clients, customers that are asking for people who could handle complicated tasks that require specialized expertise and domain knowledge. Let me now jump into the workplace. In a nutshell, although there was a huge decrease, and this came from Lichu, our partners from Lichu, in as much as there's a huge decrease in the uptake because of the prevalence of work from home, transactions are actually slowly and steadily moving upward. The next few slides will tell you that, here's the more or less the relationship between the create law in relation to work from home discussions. Sometime March 2020, the great lockdown started, and this basically allowed PEZA locators, most especially those that are operating in economic zones, to do work from home. And that was a nightmare when it comes to logistics. Could you just imagine a company like Accenture? I know that my good friend JP is going to speak after me. They basically had to disperse that many computer units to the respective homes of their employees, and it's not a joke to be rolling out more than 40,000 units from different parts of the country. A little bit of the snapshot. The IT BPM sector is still contributing a lot, although if you look at the provincial level data, we still have our work cut out for us in terms of the percentage of our total take-up in the countryside. So it's only about 10% of the total real estate take-up. So we talked about the workplace, the workways, and now we go to the locations as well as how the real estate sector is actually behaving. If you look at it year on year, all the way to 2021, not counting 2022, you could see the full-time employees, that new jobs within the IT BPM sector that were created year on year as it relates to the space that is being required. So from 2011 of about 452,000 square meters, there were 113,000 jobs that were created. Fast forward to 2021, where we could see 256,000 square meters that were taken up, and it produced more or less, just a fraction of an increase, which is about 120,000 new jobs that were introduced to the IT BPM industry. Let's now talk about what I could now see as an opportunity for players that are in Cebu, most especially in the software and IT space. The first recommendation that I would like to see, and this has been discussed thoroughly in other fora within the industry, is that the industry now accommodates microsites. Cebu should look into opportunities along these lines. And I'm very confident that when the Cebuanos actually zero in on an opportunity, a lot of forward action is actually going to be done, and it is expected. There's a need to increase engagements with colleges and universities. And my friends from Cebu, while you're at it, go even deeper. Talk to educational institutions within the primary and secondary level. Why? Because the rest of Asia, as well as other powerhouse countries in software and IT, are doing the same. Countries like China, Korea, Japan are already teaching software development as early as third grade. And I guess if there's one place that could actually make this happen, it's your location. Go do the digital path. Ensure that the necessary moving parts are in order and running like a well-oiled machine. What do I mean by this? When we talk about road mapping within the IBPAP spectrum, which includes the Animation Council, the Contact Center Association, Healthcare Information, we're talking about the game developers, shared services, as well as the software industry. We basically look at 4 building blocks, which is, we talked about the talent, we talked about a little bit about the infrastructure. We also need to talk about the cost as well as the business environment. And when I say do the digital path, I'm very happy to hear Mayor Rama actually talk a lot about technology and innovation, and that his government is actually zeroing in on all of these opportunities and basically embracing the move to digital, because we have no choice. Everything that was once offline is now scrambling to go online, and probably takes a location like Cebu to realize the full digital aspect of being in a, to use the mayor's words, Singapore-like environment. And number 4, take very gentle care of the ecosystem. I have very strong affinity with Cebu. In fact, I call myself an adopted Cebuano because primarily I spent a great amount of time in your province and in your city, as we did the Cebu Roadmap way back 2010. And one of the recommendations then was make sure that everybody who is already operating in Cebu, who already put their trust in Cebu, are happy campers. And you could only do that if the talent pipeline is robust, if all the other aspects that make up an IT BPM industry is being addressed appropriately. And I'm talking about power, connectivity, facilities, as well as rest and recreation facilities. Then you need to ensure that despite the pandemic, and I know it's been a challenging time for Cebu as well during those days, that we bring back the glory of the Queen City of the South. And again, it's a very nice pleasure to be part of this discussion this afternoon. I hope that I've given everyone a very quick feel of the lay of the land in terms of software. Bottom line, the sun is shining in the software and IT industry. We're looking forward to more significant growth, but we need places like Cebu to help us grow. And I'm very certain, and I'm very confident that Cebu will not disappoint, as always. May everyone have a very nice afternoon, and thank you so much. Thank you again, Your Excellency, Mr. Asim Roy, for giving me the opportunity to be part of the celebration of the excellence of Cebu.
Ariel, just a question. When is Spring Valley coming to Cebu?
Pretty soon. Let me fix things here in Negros Occidental first, and then but then again, DJ hasn't invited me yet, so I'm hesitating going there. But I'm just an island away. Practically I could bring my car coming over there, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone face to face again.
We'll be happy to have our own Silicon Valley out here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you
Thank
can
you,
take this
Steve.
as ready as
Yeah.
our official invitation, JDL. We'd like to welcome you back in Cebu soon. Over the past few decades, software development in the Philippines has become one of the more established subsectors of the country's IT industry, along with the presence of both domestic and international firms that are capable of delivering services and products that match up with the rigid global standards. The next wave of digital change is here, providing forward-looking companies with an opportunity to act today to be ready for the future. Welcome to the Metaverse Continuum. The Metaverse Continuum will transform how businesses will interact with customers, how work is done, what products and services companies offer, how they make and distribute them, and how they operate their organizations. To speak more about the topic is the Managing Director, Software Engineering, Data and Artificial Intelligence Lead of Accenture Inc., Mr. JP Palpalatok.
Maayong hapon, SIB.O. Welcome to Technology Vision 2022. Perhaps our most important vision ever and to the future. I'm JP Palpalato, Accenture Technology Centers in the Philippines lead for Data and Artificial Intelligence and Software Engineering, part of our Cloud First organization. For the past 22 years, Accenture has published our annual Technology Vision report to share the technology trends that will have an impact to enterprises in a 3 to 5 year horizon. The theme of our Technology Vision 2022 is Meet Me in the Metaverse, the continuum of technology and experience reshaping business. You probably heard the word metaverse over the last year. Like many emerging technologies, experts differ in how to define it, and there's also a great deal of hype being generated, which creates a lot of excitement and also a lot of confusion. Most of the focus is on the consumer application of the metaverse, and many dismiss it as either hype or a consideration for the future. But that is a mistake. Today, we are going to suggest why you need to reframe how you think about the metaverse. We're going to demystify a lot of the confusion surrounding it. And we'll talk about why it's important not just for tomorrow, but for now, today, because if there is one thing that is certain, it will impact every business and every part of every business. For many of you, the metaverse may be new and unfamiliar. So, what really is the metaverse? The metaverse is a bridge between physical and digital identities, properties, and spaces. There's no better way to articulate this than to show you around the Accenture Nth floor. So let's watch this.
Welcome everyone to the Nth floor.
Well, Paul, I love that you brought us to the cafe. This is beautiful.
Hey, do you guys want a group photo?
So this is the Sofia Antipolis lab. This is the next generation bank. Over here on the farther left.
Welcome to Accenture Virtual Reality. This is Accenture bringing forth the power of human ingenuity and technology.
We've got over 30 locations or centers of excellence across the globe.
Welcome to our Talent Town Hall.
We're standing in Accenture's metaverse right now. We call our metaverse the Nth floor.
Welcome you all to the launch of the RMD Code program.
Good to see you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Accenture's Nth floor is our own version of the metaverse where new joiners are welcome, people get trained, meet and collaborate with other people in Accenture. This is powered by Microsoft Altspace. But first, let's explore why the metaverse is important. Why starts with the speed of change. Let's talk about the astonishing pace of change. In this age of exponential technology change and compressed transformation, the pace and scale of change continues to accelerate and grow, possibly the greatest seen in human history. In many ways, by the time we consider and evaluate what's happening now, it has already become past. Consider these examples. In the last 12 months, Decentraland, a user-owned Ethereum-based virtual world, reported 21,000 real estate transactions worth $110 million. The Metaverse game offers users the ability to invest in digital real estate using NFT technology. In the Philippines, Axie Infinity was popular during the pandemic, where a lot of Filipinos were playing it. Last year, Gucci created the Gucci Garden experience to sell virtual products and sold a virtual-only digital twin of a Gucci purse for a higher price than its real-world counterpart. Imagine that. A Travis Scott Fortnite concert had 27.7 million unique attendees, far more than a typical concert venue can accommodate. Can the Philippine Arena or MOA Arena cater to that number of attendees? Christie's last year hosted its first NFT auction, where a piece by the artist Beeple, titled Everydays, the first 5,000 days, sold for $69 million to become the most expensive piece of digital art in history. Christie's also became the first auction house to accept cryptocurrency as payment. In the Philippines, our own artist Luis Buenaventura collaborated with Argentinian comic book legend Jose Delbo, creating Satoshi, the creator Genesis. Was quite a milestone. They sold each of the 222 editions of their comic book art on Nifty Gateway platform at $1,999 each, or over 22 million pesos. And then, of course, you've heard Paul Medina of the Pugad Baboy fame also is going into the metaverse. But consider how large companies are starting to move. CBS Health has become the first pharmacy to enter the metaverse. It has filed with the U.S. Patents Office to trademark its logo and establish an online store, as well as create downloadable virtual goods ranging from prescription drugs to beauty and personal care products. Chevron is another one, and then JPMC, the first bank in the metaverse. And the CEO believes the metaverse will become a $1 trillion market opportunity in yearly revenues. We also have Nike Land in the metaverse. We have Amazon Sidewalk with instantly created smart neighborhoods. And the cryptocurrency market continues to fluctuate. And in the Philippines, we have like platforms like PDAX, where you can buy cryptocurrency. The United States executive order on cryptocurrency also came out, setting policy and accelerating a digital dollar, consistent with the moves of a dozen other central banks and setting a new foundation in internet-based digital commerce. But why is the change happening? The second reason why the metaverse is important for business is that it's the next step in the evolution of the internet. And this is big. This evolution started with the Internet of Data in the 1990s that moved to the Internet of People in 2000 as we all became more and more connected. In 2010s, we saw the Internet of Things with connected phones, devices, and machines. And in this decade, the 2020s, we are seeing two evolutionary developments. First, we have the Internet of Place, which is the metaverse form that brings people, spaces, and things in both the virtual and the real world together. And then there is the Internet of Ownership, which is the metaverse function. Bursting from the crypto community, NFTs are enabling unique, portable, persistent digital objects to be created, exchanged, and valued in the market. A great example is the NBA, which just auctioned 30 unique NFTs, one-of-one digital collectibles representing every NBA team that grant each owner a VIP pass for the ultimate fan experience at the next 5 NBA All-Stars. An important component of the Internet's evolution going forward is Web3, which Web3 is a way for users and developers to not only own what they produce on a platform, but the platform itself. It leverages technologies like blockchain and tokenization to build a more distributed data layer into the internet. If you put all of this together, we are now entering a new and even larger era of digital transformation. What does the future look like? And crucially, how do businesses prepare for it? As part of our Technology Vision research, we conducted a global survey of 4,650 C-level executives across 23 industries and 35 countries. And of those executives, 71% stated that the metaverse will have a positive effect on their organizations. Accenture has been working with clients on the metaverse-related technologies and capabilities for nearly 15 years. And we have a very distinctive and more broader view that goes well beyond the current prevailing wisdom and cuts through the hype. We call it the Metaverse Continuum. We see the metaverse as a continuum that spans the spectrum of digitally enhanced worlds, realities, and business models. It applies across all aspects of business, from consumer to worker and across the entire enterprise, from reality to virtual and back, from 2D to 3D, and from cloud, artificial intelligence, to extended reality, blockchain, digital twins, edge technologies, and beyond. As the next evolution of the internet, the metaverse will be a continuum of rapidly emerging capabilities, use cases, technologies, and experiences. And for businesses, the metaverse continuum represents the spectrum of digitally enhanced worlds, realities, and business models poised to revolutionize life and enterprise in the next decade, one that is evolving and expanding across multiple dimensions. This brings us to our technology trends or technology vision. We have identified 4 trends which are the building blocks of the metaverse continuum that companies must start exploring and applying now to ensure they will grow and thrive over the next decade. The first one is WebMe, putting the me in the metaverse. As I mentioned, 71% of global executives state that the metaverse will have a positive impact on their organization, with 42% believing it will be breakthrough or transformational. Enterprise strategies currently are built for the internet of today, a digital world where platforms often lack interoperability and data portability. Metaverse and Web3 are poised to reshape the internet. Rather than it being a disparate collection of sites and apps, looking ahead, the metaverse will lead to a persistent 3D environment in which moving from one place to another will be as simple as walking from one room to another. The second trend is programmable world, our planet personalized. As emerging technologies such as 5G, ambient computing, augmented reality, and smart materials advance, digital environments will be increasingly woven into the fabrics of our physical world. These environments will reshape not just how people engage with the world, but also redefine everything built in it, how people sense and interact, and the control they have over it. 92% of executives agree that leading organizations will push the boundaries of the virtual world to make it more real. 79% believe programming the physical environment will emerge as competitive differentiation in their industry. The third trend is the unreal, making synthetic authentic. Businesses and environments are increasingly supported by AI-generated data that convincingly reflects the physical world. More than ever before, AI is top of mind for businesses as companies and consumers alike shift away from considering what is real versus fake to what is authentic, not just in terms of a company's content and algorithm, but its entire brand. 96% of executives are committed to authenticating the origin of their data and genuine use of AI. 99% of executives report concern over deep fakes and or disinformation attacks. So AI is a double-edged sword. It can be positive or negative. The fourth one is computing the impossible, new machines, new possibilities. The emergence of a new class of machine is empowering organizations across industries to stretch the boundaries of what computers can solve. Tools like quantum computing, and biology-inspired computing are allowing businesses to solve problems that may be too expensive and inefficient or flat out impossible for traditional computing. As grand challenges become trivial operations, how enterprises compete, provide value, and partner will radically change. 75% of executives are considering investing or partnering with others to address previously unsolvable problems using next-generation computing, such as high-performance computing, quantum computing, or bio-inspired computing. Given the importance of the metaverse, Accenture established an Accenture Metaverse Continuum Business Group. This aims to help our clients learn and shape the metaverse, identify new businesses and experiences, set strategy and planning a roadmap, and build and operate using technology assets and talent capabilities. And there are examples of work we are doing in Accenture. Elixir is a platform we created in Accenture to allow clients to host asset bundles and 3D models and deploy these over intranet as we can host on-premise as well. This can be used for digital twins as well. Synapse ICP, Accenture developed a capability to collaborate in a virtual environment where participants can attend a showroom with the capabilities to interact with live demonstration and screens, blending 3D scanning, haptics, virtual reality, and robotics. Advanced 3D programming techniques such as spatial sound has been incorporated to enable individual breakout conversation with the capability of 8 people attending an individual meeting in a virtual space. And Outspace VR, where Accenture has developed toolkits with proprietary functionality to enhance Outspace VR for virtual collaboration. Accenture currently uses it as a revolutionary method of introducing new employees to the company culture and training. And we are doing work in the metaverse in the Philippines for several years as well. So for you to give you a taste of this, please watch this video.
Welcome to the Philippine Hub for Innovation, where the future of business is redesigned and the value at speed and scale unlocked. Inspired by the endless possibilities of technology and human ingenuity. Discover new insights that are grounded on the art of the possible. And underscored by a commitment to create a more sustainable future. The Philippine Hub for Innovation is your new tool to reimagine your next client touchpoint, to reshape the way the Accenture story is told, and bring to life the 360 degrees of value we unlock for our clients.
So that's our vision. And these are the 4 trends that are the building blocks of the Metaverse Continuum. Meet me in the Metaverse, stake your claim in the Metaverse Continuum. Those are our trends for Technology Vision 2022, outlining 4 areas in which new worlds will define Metaverse Continuum and architect a new era of technology innovation. It would be a mistake to believe these building blocks are mutually exclusive. They will evolve and shape one another in ways that for now we can only speculate about. To close, let me quote a line from poet Amanda Gorman, who wrote the following for a New Year's 2022 poem. Let us not return to what was normal, but reach towards what is next. So, what is the most exciting metaverse application for you or your business? Thank you very much.
Thank you, JP. The physical world is indeed coming alive with new capabilities, environment by environment, each with its own rules. We are building and shaping the worlds of tomorrow. Accenture is a Fortune Global 500 company specializing in information technology services and consulting. Accenture's current clients include 91 of the Fortune Global 100 and more than 3/4 of the Fortune Global 500 companies. Technology's development over the past decades has been nothing short of a rocket launch. A slow and steady gathering of power in the beginning, a continuous ramp-up of momentum towards an ambitious launch into orbit. The development of AI and reinforcing of data science is a perfect example. Before we proceed to the next speakers, we'd like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our media partners, Sunstar, The Freeman, and Cebu Daily News. Thank you to our secondary sponsors, MCAV Printing, Seda Hotels, Red Root Artists, and QBE Group Shared Services Center. We would also like to thank JP Morgan Chase & Company, our silver sponsor, and our gold sponsors, Accenture, Ionos, Ayala Land, and Lexmark. The industry has been steadily growing in recent years with the advancement in artificial intelligence and the reliability of data science. The Aboitiz Group has made significant leaps through business transformation, emphasizing both the improvement of goods and services and the delivery of long-term advantages to their stakeholders. To speak about the Aboitiz perspective, what's new, and why we should trust AI and data science is the Managing Director, Aboitiz Data Innovation, Chief Data and AI Officer of Union Bank of the Philippines. Friends, let's welcome Dr. David Hardun.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I was about to say good morning, but I'm sure it's good morning for someone out there. Good early evening. Let me kick off and share my presentation. Okay, excellent. Okay, so as I was saying, thank you very much for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure. In fact, I'm going to be down to Cebu very, very soon, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be my first time down there. I'd like to spend with you the next 20 minutes or so to, as mentioned earlier, giving you our perspective in terms of how do we go about in enabling and making artificial intelligence, or at times, as I like to call AI, augmented intelligence and data science work. How do we establish that underlying trust? Because as all we know, the foundational elements are situated on data. And in fact, I was listening to all the wonderful presentations earlier, and especially from the metaverse point of view, it's all data. It's all the fuel and the components that are needed to make those further possibilities, whether they be in terms of services, products, understanding customers, consumers, internal or external, operational aspects, efficiency, be it from improvement or complete recreation, all the way down to risk management, essentially. So with this, there we go, just a quick outline, just very briefly, just wanted to share who we are. And I want to start with the end in mind. I remember one time I gave a session and someone said to me, David, data science and AI is effectively the reverse engineering of the world. We start with the goal. We start with what is it that we're trying to achieve. We don't do data science or data for the sake of data. Then what is it that we're trying to do? What is this element in terms of the Aboitiz way? What is it about the aspect of establishing trust, but not just within the group, but going beyond that? And that is effectively how I would like to end in terms of demonstrating and giving you a perspective of how we looked at things differently or dared to look at things differently. So let me dive in and just briefly say we're actually relatively young, Aboitiz Data Innovation, and we're the data science and the artificial intelligence arm of the Aboitiz Group. What we do is essentially support every single one of the businesses and across the group in terms of the consolidation of data science and artificial intelligence. And as I said, with a very, very, not distinct, but focused objective of how do we operationalize it? And many have heard me previously, and I always say the term AI operationalization. And, it's just to get the hang of saying that word as easy as possible. What do I mean by that? What do we mean by that? It's about how do we not just look at it from a scientific point of view, from a generic innovation perspective, from a nice idea, proof of concepts pilot. How do we take these capabilities? How do we take these approaches, these methodologies, these technologies, and distill it down to actual quantifiable value? As I alluded to earlier, business outcome in terms of revenue generation, operational efficiency, and risk management. So long and short, it is aspect of terms of building, developing, implementing, and deploying these AI-based solutions across to building this portfolio or enhancing existing portfolio of services and products. So that is us. Now, what does that mean? And I wanted to use this slide to give you a bit of a flavor, because when someone says to any audience, data science and AI, going beyond data, quite frankly, there are multiple definitions, and they're not wrong. They're differing, but they're not wrong. So I see this as really a bit of a harmonization or standardization of terminologies. From a data science perspective, it's really about how we take patterns, information, and formulate for business people information, insights, with the very and appropriate tools in order to understand how to either communicate with the business or how to communicate with consumers. These are the criticalities of it. And in the end of the day, it goes beyond the mere collection, processing, and visualization. It is that step in between that in terms of identifying something that we didn't know earlier, or to corroborate something that we did. Artificial intelligence, at times something that I foresee, or I see, as an umbrella term, is really about that possibilities from a prediction, foreseeing, dare I say, a bit of the future. Data modeling and validation, and finally, which is really the key goal and objective, as I was alluding to earlier, within and across the group, is a collaboration, consulting, and research. How do we make sure we continuously go forwards? So with that, I said, let me start with the end of mine. There are immense possibilities. And I do say that from a bias perspective as a rehab data scientist. Into the particular industries that we focus on, naturally, banking, power, manufacturing, and land, I wanted to give you a few examples of what they are. In the banking and the financial services, perhaps the one which is the most familiar and known, because I believe the financial sector has been one of the early adopters and more proficient, also to do with the fact that there's a lot of data available there from a regulatory perspective as well at times, is how do we understand our consumers? How do we hyper-personalize, not just personalize, hyper-personalize? What does that mean? Envisage that segment of one, whereby whether with the support of relationship managers or agents or not, through a digital mean, through be it a metaverse or other digital formats, there's the ability of understanding consumers in order to provide them services. And an example I always like to give is, I do not believe, I may be wrong, that someone wakes up in the morning and says, I want a loan because I need it in my life. No, there's a reason. There's a necessity. Moving on to the next stage in life, career, wanting to potentially getting a mortgage, a bigger house, children. The point is, it is situated and based on our needs as individuals. And that's essentially where it's there to help. So we have already been working intensely with the businesses in things such as understanding the relevancy and increasing bank assurance, credit cards. As I mentioned, also in operational and risk management, such as handling with respect to detection and preventions of frauds. In the end of the day, it is really going beyond and opening opportunities of next best offers, as well as cross-selling. Similarly, in power, while a different pillar, is immense opportunities because there's a lot of operational aspects. Some of the opportunities and possibilities from reduction and use of limestone, which are traditionally used within coal plants. Understanding, managing, forecasting, and optimizing the reduction of SOx emissions. Really assuring that ESG isn't just a nice concept. We're again able to leveraging on data and data science to quantifiably measure it. Cement, which in the manufacturing realm is something that if you asked me about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, is this even possible? I would have scratched my head, even in those aspects. And this is what I'm trying to convey the message. It's not about data. It's not about AI even. It is about those possibilities. Cement, how can we identify in advance the compressive strength that is needed from a manufacturing point of view? Achieving such elements as consistency in the products, optimizing the recipes, working with the chemist, reduction of emission, and even elements such as land, mitigating construction delays, understanding where to do things. all the way down to the selling, just to give you an example. Now, again, I don't want to throw ideas. I don't want to just throw concepts, even though these are more tangible than just saying data science and AI. I want to show you numbers and what this actually means in the end of the day. I want to start with that, the unexpected one, the cement. And I'll just go briefly on these. That focus, business focus of, I need to understand what is going to be the compressive strength of this cement mixture in advance, rather than waiting that 28 days period, had ultimately resulted upon deployment in 3 wonderful outcomes. Reduction in power consumption, 30 to 50% reduction in power, 15 to 20% efficiency in the clinker, in the cement strength, and 20 to 40 kilotons reduction in CO2 emissions. In the banking, the numbers are there. From 140 to 240% improvement on convergence, hyper-personalizing, understanding the consumers, leveraging on that data to seeing what is relevant when. And as I mentioned in power, the immense opportunities in understanding and optimizing the usage of materials, reducing costs, increasing efficiency, managing carbon footprint. Now, all of this is situated on data. And we want to, amongst other, if you think even constructs such as open banking, which is around the corner, or overseas talkers about open data, is situated on data in creating these types of products, services, and solutions. So how do we do it? How do we think about it? In order to achieve and really drive the potentiality of these goals is accelerating and enabling cross-industry synergies, be it from a collaboration with respect to a product, service, or a solution, or the re-leveraging of a solution from one industry to another. Really, really straightforward and simple objective, but this is the main and driving anchor. Now, what are the challenges that all face, as well as we did face in doing so? Well, the first, let's just call out the elephant in the room: data privacy, security, regulatory and legal compliance. How do we make sure that we, of course, are above board? We pass the litmus test. And this a lot of times is the first hindrance when it comes to data. How do we knock out those data sharing agreements that may take anything from months to many, many, many months to hash out? The necessity to have an end goal already set in mind. But what is if we want to create and identify potential possibilities? We don't really know yet what would be that refined end product. Dealing with data from a management point of view, mitigating potential risks, operational complexity type. These are all the challenges in place. So what was the approach and that avoidance way that I'm talking about? Is rethinking data. So it's not about data sharing. If you still want to use the term data sharing, you could call it data sharing 2.0, but realizing all those potentialities, those outcomes, those benefits that I was referred to earlier, actually, we don't care about the data. We want them. So how do we do it in a manner that's mitigating these challenges and allowing for those possibilities? And we did this. We decided to literally relax and parlay. And it took me a while because usually the first reference to people half on parlay is Pirates of the Caribbean, which is also a fun one. But parlay, it means to make something more than it already is. The idea is, how do we create an environment that allows us to not share data, but access data? So in other words, data never leaves one organization. It is about one organization accessing another organization's secured and governed in mind, meaning it is always within the control of the data owner or the data custodian. I want to repeat that because this is a fundamental difference. And the analogy I always like using is, imagine walking into a museum and looking at that beautiful piece of art, Mona Lisa, Van Gogh, whatever floats your boat. When you leave the museum, you leave with the inspiration, not the piece of art. Same thing with data. How do we go into the museum, someone else's house, look at that data? But when we leave, we don't need to take the data. We take the end product, the inspiration. Parlay is that environment that allows you to do exactly that. Just like you go to an app store or Google Play, the various elements on applications, now it is in terms of data, what is essentially available. Accessing a secured workspace that no data can leave, that is already preloaded with all the tools that either the data scientists, the business analysts, the business intelligence, the business themselves, whomever is the persona, need effectively to do those underlying reviews. So, changing the fundamental premise. We're no longer solving data sharing, we're solving data access and data exchange. So what does this now mean? And what is the approach that we've taken? Unlocking the ecosystem. It is about creation and establishment of an ecosystem, from data partners to data consumers, not about data sharing. Creating the environment where digital assets, just as we discussed earlier from a metaverse point of view, can be available on demand in a trusted and secure governed environment. Workflow end-to-end, no longer the ad hoc approach of having to craft up data sharing agreements. Pre-templatized, pre-approved, it is a matter of do you accept or not? Move on. Taking those 8 months or longer to a matter of seconds. And I want to emphasize it again, a secure environment to collaborate, preloaded with all the analytical tools that are needed. This established and set and facilitates a data marketplace, a data vault on cloud, gives us the flexibility that is needed, a data science platform in analyzing, and as I mentioned, a data sharing agreement repository. Moving away from a manual approach to a non-manual approach to an automated streamflow. So at the end of the day, what is it? It is about finding those opportunities. I want to re-emphasize the end in mind, and that's how we start. We want to unlock the ecosystems. We want to deliver and derive value for consumers, internal and external. Operational efficiency, as well as risk management. In order to do that, to create a trusted environment to achieve that, we must unlock the data opportunities. We've been trying for decades to crack the data sharing framework. Hasn't really worked. So we've reinvented that and created an exchange environment whereby accessing in a secure and governed manner to unlock that data. Be it in our particular case, the organizations and businesses within the business and the group, or others, where you're bringing now people, external partners, data assets, the tools that are necessary to focus in a very succinct fashion, on the outcomes and the insights and the actions that we want to have in order to leverage and benefit, as I mentioned, our ecosystem. So this has been the Aboitiz way. This is how we've established and how I encourage you to establish that trusted environment to unlocking the data in data and AI possibilities. With that, and just on time, thank you very much.
Thanks, David. The development of AI and data science in the Philippines is nothing short of tremendous, boosting data collecting efficiency. Artificial intelligence and the strengthening of data science in the Philippines is as promising as it is challenging. We are now on the final stretch of the 3-day Transformation Summit and Expo. The Information Technology Business Process Management, or IT-BPM industry in Cebu, is projected to continue growing as among the key economic drivers in the Southern Economic Powerhouse. The 4 main modes of transport in Cebu are public utility jeepney and buses, metered taxi and a car using ride-hailing applications, motorcycle, locally known as habal-habal, and a tricycle, sometimes abbreviated to trike. Given the increasing demands, particularly in Cebu City as more and more people returning to office, are these enough? To talk more about the bus, rapid transit, and the future of transportation in Cebu is Cebu City Councilor and Chairman of Transportation Committee, Honorable James Cuenco.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Chairman of the Transportation Committee of the City Council in the City of Cebu, I am thrilled to present the future of transportation in the City of Cebu. And I'm even more thrilled to present that as of now, we are a step closer towards that future. Today, you will see a glimpse behind the curtain, a glimpse behind the system that would greatly impact the lives of every Cebuano. Before we start on the updates in Cebu's BRT implementation, I would like to give everyone a brief background on the proposed project. The Cebu Bus Rapid Transit System, or BRT system for short, is expected to be among the first bus rapid transit systems in the Philippines. A BRT system, as compared to other transit mediums, such as light rail transits, is preferred because it does not cost much to construct and operate. A BRT system requires no tracks, it requires less training for its drivers, and is more dynamic as it can stop at designated bus stops easier than a light rail transit could. It is for these reasons that countries like China and the United States continue to push for BRT systems. For the BRT system in Cebu City, I will present a few slides provided by the Department of Transportation. Initially, these slides were only meant for my own personal viewing. However, given that the 2020 Transformation Summit is the perfect forum to share the advocacy for a better transportation system, I have decided to share this to everyone. In Cebu City, the entire BRT system would consist of 3 packages. Package 1 is the building of dedicated lanes from the South Bus Terminal to the provincial capital, the establishment of a link to the port from Plaza Independencia to Natalio Bacalso Avenue, and the creation of 4 BRT stations. Package 2 is the building of dedicated lanes from South Road Properties to Talisay City via Natalio Bacalso Avenue, from South Road Properties to Talisay City via the Cebu South Coastal Road, and from ID Park to Talamban. While Package 3 is the building of dedicated lanes for the feeder line system. As of July 2022, the initial focus for the project is largely on Package 1, which is aimed to be partially operative by Q3 in 2023. The designated lanes that expand from South Bus Terminal to Capitol Building will be 2.38 kilometers long and will have 4 BRT stations, 1 in Capitol, 1 in Fuente Osmeña, 1 in the Cebu Normal University, and 1 in Cebu South Bus Terminal. The addition of BRT stations would transform our lanes to cater to each and every kind of commuter. The people who walk will use the sidewalks. People who prefer using bicycles will use the bicycle lanes. People who prefer driving vehicles will use the vehicle lanes. And people who prefer riding the BRT would travel along the designated exclusive lanes. The BRT stations are aesthetically designed to look modern, yet keeping a more nature-inspired look. The poles are made of stainless steel. The handlebars in either side of the station are made of wood, and the roofs on top of the stations are designed to mimic a 3-globe leaf. As for the link from Plaza Independencia to Natalio Bacalso Avenue, Package 1 envisions the improvement of sidewalks, bike lanes, and providing urban landscape, furniture, in the entire stretch of the street. This link is intended to provide a more pleasant and accessible path for commuters from Osmeña Boulevard to reach the BRT stations. Apart from the project on the BRT system, the City of Cebu envisions the adoption of a monorail system in the city. While monorails are often utilized to transport airport passengers from one terminal to another, the city sees huge potential to adopt a monorail system to also cater to regular passengers because monorail systems require low operating cost, lesser space for its stations, and are environment friendly for they are electronically powered. To complement the idea of a monorail system, the addition of light rail transit system is designed to carry higher capacity of passengers, along with greater distance of travel. The light rail transit system is intended to carry passengers from south to north and vice versa. Another possibility to improve the public transportation in the city of Cebu is the introduction of cable cars. The city can utilize cable cars by providing commuters a quick ascent from the lowlands to uphill areas without having to build a new road. In fact, cable cars are much faster and cheaper to implement than building new roads. The biggest challenge for the city, however, is the creation of subways, just like the ones in New York City, Hong Kong, and Singapore. The subway in New York has 8 different paths for every train, which can transport passengers to any point of destination within the city. If this kind of subway system is installed in the city of Cebu, it would revolutionize the transportation industry and improve the livelihood of our people. I can see that our time is about to finish, so I would like to extend my gratitude to each and every one of you, especially to the chairman of the Transformation Summit 2022, Mr. Darwin John DJ Moises, to the president of CIBO, Asim Roy, and to the entire team behind the Transformation Summit 2022. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your time. I hope you will keep yourselves up to date with the latest developments regarding the city's transportation systems.
Thank you, Cebu City Councilor Honorable James Cuenco, for shedding more light about Cebu Bus Rapid Transit System, the planned mass transit system for Cebu City, which is going to be located within the greater metropolitan area. It is expected to be the first operational bus rapid transit project in the country. At this point, we're now moving to the final portion of today's summit, the panel discussion. Before we proceed, we would also like to extend our gratitude to Red Root Artist Cooperative as our official technical partner for the 2022 Transformation Summit. Red Root is a multi-awarded and youth-led cooperative in the Philippines. For almost 14 years, Red Root has been at the forefront of creating innovative projects ranging from museum modernization, 3D projection mapping, virtual galleries and hybrid events, video production, learning management systems, renewable energies, and technology integration. To know more about Redroot, contact them at 02-8283-7083 and through email info@redroot.coop. We're still collecting questions and we will do our best to answer them through the 2022 Transformation Summit and Expo's final panel discussion. At this point, we now have a better grasp on how we can proactively lead the transformation journey from parity to superiority. We'd like to thank our media partners, Sunstar, The Freeman, Cebu Daily News, our secondary sponsors, MCAV Printing, Seda Hotels, Redroot Artists, and QBE Group Shared Services Center. Thank you to JP Morgan Chase and Company, our silver sponsor, and our gold sponsors, Accenture, Ionis, Ayala Land, and Lexmark, where we are currently broadcasting live. And just like the previous days, the panel discussion will have the Executive Director of SIB.O as moderator. Friends, let me now turn over the proceedings to Mr. Buddy Villasis.
Thank you, DJ. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the panel discussion of today's session. We are now in the home stretch of the 3-day Transformation Summit. And joining us from his corporate headquarters in the hinterlands of Negros is the CEO of Spring Valley Tech Corporation and President of Philippine Software Industry Association, Mr. JDL, or Mr. Jonathan Lipansor de Luzuriaga. Mr. JP Palpalato, Managing Director for Software Engineering and Artificial Intelligence of Accenture Philippines is with us. Broadcasting live from Singapore is the Managing Director of Aboitiz Data Innovation and Chief Data and AI Officer of Union Bank, Dr. David Hardoon. And of course, we have the main man, the CEO and the Chief Servant of Cebu City, according to him. He has been with us in the full 3 days of the summit, the one and only Honorable Mayor Mike Rama. So welcome to the open forum, gentlemen. And let's start, of course, with Mr. JDL. How are you, John?
Very good, bud. It's nice to see everyone again.
Okay, that's
good. Hope you could visit here, and I hope I could visit Cebu again.
What made you decide to set up your eventually set up your business headquarters in the hinterlands and not in Manila?
Well, I was born, I grew up, had a family, got educated in Metro Manila. And for anyone who's had the Metro Manila experience, it's like my good friend here, JP, who's getting younger every day. And sometime 2016, I just raised my hand and I said, why the hell am I doing this? You know, the countryside is so much more better. So never regretted the decision, not even for a day.
And in Manila, of course, you won't see a lot of green surroundings, no?
Everybody, just a bit of a factoid here, no?
Yep.
70% actually of the people that power the entire IT BPM industry does not come from Metro Manila. So they come from all over the country.
Yes.
So I guess that puts a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah. Primarily, they just converge in the cities, but of course, they come from everywhere.
That's correct.
Okay. You have a very comprehensive presentation. You emphasized the huge job prospects for the IT BPM industry, specifically on the software areas. And the industry after the pandemic has opened a lot of doors also to Filipinos either to work on site or work from anywhere. Are we producing enough talents?
No, we're not. That's the unfortunate truth. We're back to square one. Of course, our good friend, Mr. Hardoon from Aboitiz and JP also went through a lot of developments that are technically, from my point of view, it's already 4.0, and we're still talking about producing talent for version 1.0. We have a lot of catching up to do, but I know that places like Cebu have more or less advanced in terms of the quality of graduates. One question that I answered in the Q&A panel is, comparing ourselves to India on a per capita and head count per revenue basis, how could we actually close the gap?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is quality talent. The industry doesn't really care much about the pricing nowadays, as long as you give them the talent that they require so that they could build faster, technically, disrupt faster and go to their customers in a much faster pace.
Okay. So it's really going to be a war of talents, and we've been talking about the war of talents in the past 3 days. So what do you suggest that the academe should do to fully produce globally competitive talents? And we've been, we've been enticing investors to come to Cebu or the Philippines in general. And you said we're not ready with the talents. I think the industry academe partnership should really play a lot in this area.
Buddy, I've been waving the flag of the country for more than 2 decades now, and it's the same conversation that happens year in and year out. It's a finger-pointing contest between the schools and the industry. But the thing that's happening now, and I've seen this happen in the past 5 or so years, is that the conversation is actually happening more intensely, and there's more conviction in terms of coming up with more tangible results. One aspect that I could see is that we should really start them young, and that's part of the recommendation stage, because apparently we want schools to actually correct in 4 years what they haven't provided, or what the students or learners have not obtained during their couple of years in elementary and in secondary school. And then you give it to the industry to correct this with 400 to 600 hours. What can we do, right? So if you look at the benchmark that's happening all over, especially in Asia, they're starting them very, very young. As in, the fundamentals are already quite strong, even in elementary school. So in China, for instance, grade 3, how can you compete with that, right? You're teaching software development to third graders. So the expectation right now is, they go through the OJT and then they become super coders. Doesn't happen that way, right?
Wow.
Doesn't happen that way.
So we're talking about grade 3 students toying in the computers already and trying to work out on software, while Filipinos are still playing tumba preso in the mountains, in the provinces. So that's a lot of difference.
It's good. But it's good if they're doing tumbang preso, because then, that's physical activity. The problem is if they're doing TikTok, So, yeah. I mean, if they're doing TikTok and they're not doing anything else, I mean, they're getting immersed in digital, but as a user and as a consumer, not really from a producer standpoint.
Yes, I agree. Let's jump to JP. I believe today's discussion is really interconnected. Hi, JP. What are the biggest challenges for modern companies to be able to adapt and transition themselves to the metaverse?
Sure. Thank you. I think personally the biggest challenge is awareness and understanding of what metaverse is and how it will impact the business. As you've heard, there's a lot of hype about this and a lot of confusion. There's a big deal of attention on the front end, yung mga devices, the user side of the technology, and there's also an impression that this is a fad, something not applicable to their business or something for the future. I think the biggest risk is not recognizing and seizing the opportunities that the metaverse can provide. As I shared earlier, the metaverse topic should be discussed now and today, given the speed of change and its importance. No? It's also a continuum, not just a front end or user application, but rather the continuum of from front to back and everything in between, from consumer to worker, from 2D to 3D, from physical to virtual and back, and technologies like data and AI or artificial intelligence, cloud security, to extended reality and blockchain, etc. So there's a lot, no? So to position their businesses and enterprises, companies need to start to understand and learn about the metaverse. That's the first thing. They need to put the necessary focus, the structure, and the strategy to seize the opportunity to become a leader in the metaverse. The organization can start their journey to the metaverse by ensuring that they have what we call a digital core, which includes cloud, the use of cloud, data and AI, security, platforms, and others. And of course, as JDL mentioned, preparing the talent that will take them there. No? Talent will be key in terms of putting all of this together.
Okay. What are the risks? How can companies be assured of their safety once they're in the metaverse already?
Sure. Like any technology or trend, no? The first thing is focusing on building a responsible metaverse. No? This means building security, data protection, privacy, sustainability by design at the start. No? Thinking about it at the start. Companies will need to put the necessary structures, policy, and processes in place for this. Since this is a new space, actually metaverse is a new space and area, some of the standards might not be fully defined. No? So there is a responsibility for companies to help define this and ensure that these policies, structures, and processes are in place to ensure a responsible metaverse. So in Accenture, by design, we start with responsible metaverse in mind. We think about human factors and trust and safety and even sustainability in the metaverse. So start with that end in mind, as mentioned by Dr. David. That's all.
Thank you, JP. Wow. That's a lot of things to absorb for an ordinary Filipino from the provinces. I believe a lot of us are familiar with the metaverse kind of as being shown on Facebook, no? The TikTok kind of metaverse, as per Jonathan. How are you, Dr. Hardoon?
I'm very good. Whenever someone calls me that, I think of my dad. So wow. Dave is great.
Somebody inboxed a message. What kind of doctor is David?
Well, now you see, you're touching on a sensitive issue. And speaking of my dad, that was exactly the one we used to debate. Where I used to tell him I'm the real doctor, where it's a PhD. But jokes aside, I always kind of worry when I'm on airlines if they say, "Oh, look, we need help with a passenger." I'm a doctor for computers. So if you have any problems with your computers or artificial intelligence, metaverse, I'm here to help. But I wanted to just say something, if you don't mind, about there's a lot to kind of embed. There is, but this is why it's actually really, really critical to, dare I say, even oversimplified. Like sometimes when I'm in conversations, people say to me, "David, look, I don't know how this is relevant to me. I don't know how AI," and I'm like, look, forget the term. Do you have business goals? Are you trying to make revenue? Do you have operations? Are you trying to increase? It's literally that. It's the underlying KPIs on the end of the day that a business does. And then for the person on the ground, it's the realization that whether we like it or not, we are becoming far more enabled with technology, from the more physical one to the more virtual one. So just like once upon a time, we had, a special dedicated department of typers to, word processing, to now everyone can do it. That's exactly what's going to happen. So to me, it's about how we start in embedding these capabilities at the appropriate level. Trust me, you don't need to become a data scientist. I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
Okay.
You just need to understand those possibilities that can come from it.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. At least we're looking at something, some kind of opportunity along that line. No? Primarily, why did Aboitiz Data Innovation actually decide to set up shop in Singapore and not in Cebu or in the Philippines in particular?
Well, actually, it's just a matter of time. Who says we aren't or haven't? So, in the end of the day, we are about ecosystems. We're about looking at terms of bringing in the best possible from a learning's point of view and about leapfrogging. So, it's seeing the fact that we want to operate in a regional basis. So we set up shop there. We had some folks, and in fact, to a certain degree, it was also very much due to COVID that travel couldn't happen. But what we want, and I heard the question earlier about talent, there's a vast talent pool actually in the Philippines. The objective now is how to make sure there is the opportunity for those individuals to leverage on that talent and to put it into action. And that's exactly what we're doing. Bringing in those architects that come from different locations, that had those experience, working together with a bigger group of individuals, training them, leveling up. And like I said, who said we're not be setting up shop in the Philippines or potentially Cebu?
Thank you, David. Primarily, Aboitiz is the key supporter of Asian Institute of Management's MSDS program. I'm sure you're aware of that. And AIM happens to be a key partner of the Department of Trade in its National AI Research Center. With the National AI Research Center, will Aboitiz be supportive of a Cebu-based satellite branch of the center?
In fact, I'm happy you asked me that question, because actually I was typing and responding online as well. At the end of the day, there's a very strong philosophy that we have. Actually, that's two parts of it, if I can break it down. One is, it's about enabling communities. And the second one is leave no one behind. So absolutely, with the support that we have, and as we mentioned, we want to make sure that we're expanding both the digital adoption capabilities, know-hows. So I will quote what I said, why not? In the end of the day is how to make sure it is not only us who are benefiting it, but our partners and others within the industry.
Okay. Thank you, David. So the advent of AI and data science is now leading towards a war for talents. What are ADI's initiatives in partnership with the local academy to ensure that talent requirements of the industry will be supplied? I'm sure a lot of schools here are worried about offering data science courses because of this readiness. Do you have any pointers to the schools and our partners in the academy?
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying that I try to be an optimist and a pacifist, and I'll say let's not call it a war for talent. Let's look at it an opportunity for collaboration for talent. What needs to be done, especially when you think of academia, is the realization that there are two tracks, and this is something that I think is really, really important, especially at the higher tiers of academia. There's a research track, research, exploration, innovation, and there's an industry track. And that's what I was specifically alluding to during my earlier sharing, that we're focusing about the operationalization of AI, not just about the theoretical aspects of it, the algorithmic development, creating new algorithms and whatnot. So in academia, thinking about creating that talent pool that all of us can access, there needs to be a balance of how many of those tracks are research oriented, which are important, don't get me wrong, but also creating those tracks that now are industry specific. The application and operationalizing of data science in finance, agriculture, manufacturing. We need to start realizing and thinking specialization is important. That would be a strong recommendation that I would have.
Okay, thank you, David. There's a question for JP. The current issue in the misuse of technology to create a populace fed with a lot of fake news and alternative truths. How do we make sure that metaverse will not be used to strengthen the misuse?
Yeah, as I mentioned, given that this is a newer area or space, there's a lot of white space at this point in time. But I think one of the things that we really need to think about is focusing with the end in mind, focusing on responsible metaverse, similar to what we talked about previously as responsible AI. understanding, what is true, testing it out, making sure that there are some of the guardrails and tools and technologies to enable the validation of the data, the validation of the insights, etc. And I think from an Accenture perspective, we have a point of view in terms of responsible AI. In fact, we have a practice helping our clients really in that particular space, and trying to make sure that first, if you think about it, AI or data or some of the fake news comes with the data, the quality of the data, ensuring that the health of the data, it's the right, it can be trusted, etc., is very important. And then making sure that we test out the insight and that we remove the bias out of the data and the AI that we produce. So I think there's some more work, given that the metaverse will also actually will heighten some of the challenges, given that this is a new space. But I think we do have the building block. Some of the things like the Data Protection Act and all of the other regulations and areas and technologies are there to help protect us. But we need to sort of contribute to creating this responsible metaverse, as I mentioned.
Buddy, sorry, I just need to jump in for a while. I know that JP's answer is excellent, but while we have an audience with the academia in attendance also now, may I reiterate also that aside from the skills and the knowledge, let's also create learners in a workforce that has a very sound and uncompromising moral compass. Okay. Because regardless of where technology is going to lead us, we're going to produce bad people. They'll just use it for the bad. But if we're going to use, if technology is going to enable good people to do more, then that's the right use of technology.
I totally agree. Actually, one of the most critical skill is critical thinking, in other words, and trying to analyze the data and information that you're getting. I think that's a very critical. If you're going to produce a talent, critical thinking is one of the key skills that we need to do.
Thank you, JP. I think Mayor Mike Rama has been listening intently to all the discussion. And I believe the fact that he stayed with us for 3 days, I'm sure the IT BPM industry in Cebu will go a long way. Mayor Mike, can we hear from you a bit?
Yes. Very much interesting. Thankful to all those speakers from day one, and even I have been very impressed on my Councilor James Cuenco transportation presentation. I've been hearing about parity to superiority. I've been hearing a doctor without a clinic, but a doctor whose clinic is in the software and even in the hardware, and that is Dr. David. And then I keep on following about in mind, the end result in mind. And then at the same time, I was a little bit struck because I think the issue here, we can never stop anyone, anything it comes to information, upliftment, enhancement, or even going beyond. And even the question is, what is next? No matter what is next, we must be, I look at it 10 times even ahead of the time. So this time, I got struck because we're talking of war, more on talents. And we need to have quality talents. All of the speakers from day one until today, we have all the so-called gurus. I do not have to be emphasizing who is the best. But the most important thing, I think Secretary Vice President Sara Duterte should have been in this console or platform body, because no matter how you will be doing a fast tracking, I don't really go for on fast tracking, neither even on pump priming. There is no substitute, gentlemen, of what I have been really in a world called Kaizen. We've got to have a continuous small self-improvement, and then we can make it as fast as possible, but get down to the basic. Because if the school will never be that quick and fast to adjust, then no matter how you who are gurus would like to introduce as much as what we call the new trend on IT PBM, then it becomes garbage in and garbage out. So I would wish that if given a chance to talk to the Vice President, which I had a chance at one time, I think it's not even I think, I believe and strongly that matter about even in the grade 1 level, this thing on IT, this thing about technology upliftment should already be present, and it should be market-driven curriculum.
Thank you, Mayor Mike. I believe you said everything thoroughly, and with your connection with the Department of Education and your advocacy, I am sure we can work out together with the industry. President Asim, could you help me sum up the discussion this afternoon? Quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking out time, being part of this 3-day event. And Mayor Rama, I have no words to thank you. Show the kind of commitment that you are putting into the city, and getting the time and attention from the chief executive is not easy. And so we owe a big thank you to you for giving almost 3 days of your unhindered attention to this summit. I think it means a lot to us, and I think for everybody who's from Cebu, extremely proud of the fact that the senior-most leader in the location, senior-most leader in the city is kind of blessing the summit. So shows a level of commitment, shows a level of integrity on the support that you're extending to the industry. So thanks a lot. And for the other and the 3 gentlemen out here, David, JDL, JP, I think we got the best of the talent, the best of the brains who are supporting the industry. A big shout out to JDL, what you are doing for the industry, especially the software industry, where we see a huge potential at this point of time. There is a big opportunity out there for us to grab. And cities like Cebu, it's like saying that if outside Manila NCR, if there's any city which can really scale up, I think that's Cebu. And that's where we'll need a lot of help from you to how do we explain that. JP, same for you, giving us a deep dive into what is the latest in terms of technological trend, and nothing less than metaverse shows a lot of commitment and shows a lot of integrity that you have brought to this program. And thanks for sharing the details, and much grateful. And I'm sure we will, as we progress, you'd like to understand how much of these can be use cases in terms of our day-to-day life. Practically this industry represents a lot of IT BPO component. In BPO, for example, you'd like to understand, how going forward we do the recruitment, how do we do training. Some of the production work that we can carry out using metaverse would be of great interest. David, thanks again for joining from Singapore. Aboite is a well-known group, and in fact, pardon me for my limited knowledge, I was kind of amazed with the kind of industry spectrum where Aboite is involved. So extremely excited. I think artificial intelligence, machine learning is no more stuff of the folklore, right? It's something that we are living with right from the moment you check into your airport to everything that we do in our lifetime. So I think that's a great set of presentations and commitment that we got from each one of you. What we feel as an industry, and I think specifically today was more focused on the IT and the software part of the business, is something we should be looking at, possibly co-inventing, investing and co-innovation in something like, which are the hyperscalers and industry platforms such as AWS, Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, SAP, ServiceNow, in the leading edge solutions. I think one of the key things that we see, in terms of talent is that how can we get that kind of talent which can support these technologies, right? And together with our partners, whether it's academia, whether it's schools, we want to see a greater traction in areas like, say, cloud-led modernization, AI, machine learning, industry, and other content-specific digital solutions and cloud-native architecture. I think these are the things which are in demand in terms of the larger IT industry, the larger innovation ecosystem that we are seeing. To have folks from Accenture, from Avoitus and JDL himself, I think we got the best of the brains, we got the best of the ideas. I think it's just a question of putting some of these ideas and thoughts into action. How can we galvanize these thoughts into institutions? How do we ensure that we train our trainers? How do we train our teachers? We can build buildings, we can build schools, but what we really need is the key skill who needs to be trained. And I think that's where possible, some of our multinational organizations which are part of CIBO and other institutions, how can we ensure there's a successful knowledge transfer that is carried out? So that's something that we owe to the community out here. But thanks again for a very, very insightful and very informative session and making a real big mark on our Transformation Summit and leaving us with some great thoughts. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you, President Asim. Gentlemen, you really did good this afternoon with a very powerful discussion, and that has made Mayor Mike listen intently to all of you. So once again, we look forward to another day supposedly, but today is Friday. We need to enjoy the weekend. Thank you very much. And that concludes our panel discussion for today. I'll bring you back to DJ.
Once again, we'd like to thank our media partners, Sunstar, The Freeman, Cebu Daily News, our secondary sponsors, MCAV Printing, Seda Hotels, Red Root Artists, QBE Group Shared Services Center. Thank you to JP Morgan Chase and Company, our silver sponsor, and our gold sponsors, Accenture, Ionis, Ayala Land, and Lexmark. Thanks, buddy JDL, JP, David, Asim, and also our Mayor Mike. Today, we are several steps closer to the next stage of the transformation. For the past days, we spoke about digitalization, business transformation, the Philippine economy beyond the pandemic, the future of software industry. Yes, we are now transitioning beyond the pandemic. It has been a great 3 days, and thank you for your engagement and participation. My name is DJ, this year's conference chair. It's been a pleasure to have all of you with us in the summit. We've learned our lessons. We know better how to be ahead of the transformation, what we need to do differently, and how we can better collaborate. Now, to officially close the 2022 Transformation Summit and Expo, I now turn over back the proceedings to the Executive Director of SIB.O, Mr. Buddy Villasis.
To all our guests, speakers of the 3-day summit, the SIB.O Board of Trustees, the members of SIB.O, industry players, academe partners, and support groups, our guests, colleagues, and participants, a pleasant and fulfilling afternoon to all of us. The Cebu IT-BPM organization's advocacy of advancing the current status of the IT-BPM industry is a promise to each Cebuano that we are here to further the already strong landscape. SIB.O would continue linking all entities involved in making big decisions for the industry and spearheading initiatives to support the demand of the general populace. As showcased by the 2022 Transformation Summit, we are recovering from both the pandemic and Typhoon Odette or Rai, which hindered us for 2 years, but we are still coming out from it stronger than ever. With a double-digit growth from the last year, it proved to show that the IT BPM industry still continues to become a crucial driver in the improvement of the Philippine economy and the lives of our fellow Filipinos. On behalf of the SIB.O Board of Trustees, the Summit Committee, we would like to extend our appreciation and gratefulness to all of the people and companies who made this three-day event possible, and for all the support and collaboration of not just the industry partners but the local government of Cebu City as well, the participation of the younger generations, and for hearing the call towards the next level play. Thank you. We hope that we all learned a great deal and use those learning to plant a seed within each of us and cultivate that to become the light of change we will be harvesting in the future. From the bottom of our hearts at SIB.O, thank you once again, and we look forward to seeing you for the next year's event. May we all have a great year ahead of us.
On behalf of the President and Board of Trustees of SIB.O, thank you for your participation. Daghang salamat, maraming salamat, thank you, and see you next year for the 2023 Transformation Summit and Expo. Good afternoon and have a good weekend, everyone.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
This is Alice. Alice had to drop out of 12th grade 5 months ago because her father
Ano ang pag-ibig? Disclaimer, this is not a hugot video but will definitely teach
Hi, I'm Chris. I am a principal engineer at Lexmark. My primary work is to deliver the best motherboard.
Yes. Nice shop, nice baby, nice.
Okay.
Hello, darling. Aunt Helga. The pleasure is yours. Good at knitting.
A spectrum of digitally enhanced worlds, realities, and business models are emerging. Welcome to the Metaverse Continuum.